Hey folks, Nathan here. We're continuing our look here at the Dresden Files cooperative card game by kind of circling back to the beginning. One thing that I didn't really delve into in the videos where we took a look at the original game and its first expansions versus its later expansions and whatnot is that we didn't take a look at the fact that this was initially a Kickstarter game and where all those different bits and pieces actually came from, the same way I would look at one of our content overview videos for actual Kickstarter releases. Now, I got this later off the Evil Hat website, but all the components actually came from the Kickstarter. So we're going to take a look at that really quickly here, what it was that the original funding goal was, what were the different stretch goals that were unlocked, and what were the different pledge levels, like we would look at one of those Kickstarter videos for any other game. We're also going to take a look here kind of as a bonus at the Broken Token Organizer that you can pick up for the game in case you're curious about exactly how that works as an organizer and whether or not it's worth picking up. So let's start with the Kickstarter stuff. The goal of the Kickstarter campaign was to raise a total of $48,000 in US dollars. They raised $549,486. So their goal was basically 48,000 and they wound up raking in over $500,000. The core content of the regular base game actually didn't really change. You still have the board, the tokens, the fate dice, the rulebook, the dividers, the 5 characters, Harry, Murphy, Michael, Susan, and the Alphas duo of Billy and Georgia, the initial group of side jobs, and the first 5 books, Stormfront, Full Moon, Grave Peril, Summer Night, and Death Masks. Nothing changed there. But it was sort of a development process for the game itself, as is the case with most Kickstarters. So at $48,000 it was funded. At $64,000, they expanded the art budget for fewer repeated images on cards. I've noted before that there are some repeated images, particularly when you look at the side jobs, for instance. At $72,000, they expanded the art budget again, specifically for faux cards. At $102,000, that is when we start seeing expansions becoming available. They did not make the expansions stretch goals that were just free to everyone. But like we see with some campaigns, what the stretch goal did was show that it's financially viable to offer an expansion as a paid add-on. Okay, so at $102,000, the fan favorites expansion, that's Thomas Wraith, that is Waldo Butters, that is Blood Rights, and that is Deadbeat, that became available as a $10 add-on. The same thing happened for the second expansion, the Helping Hands expansion, which is Sonya, Molly Carpenter, Proven Guilty, and White Knight at the $132,000 mark. And then the same happened again for the third expansion, the last one of that original wave, which was Warden's Attack, which has Carlos Ramirez, Anastasia Lucio, Small Favor, and Turncoat in it. All of those were $10 add-ons within the campaign, but reaching those stretch goals made them available at all. I would liken this to the way that, for instance, Hand of Fate Ordeals unlocked the 3 different royalty expansions only to eventually realize everybody wanted all of them, so they just lumped them all together. But it was a paid add-on that was simply made financially viable by a stretch goal mark. Now, those initial stretch goals were called the Circle of Essentials. Then you had the Circle of Gratitude, which is a set of 10 stretch goals that were a mixture of digital art being added to a place where the backers could actually go get that artwork and download it, which is not available to everyone, just to the backers, but it's essentially just the art from the game. Some new cards being added, though not many, but some, and a shipping discount, where basically each of the different stretch goals met within the Circle of Gratitude lowered the shipping cost from the initial $10 US within the US by $1 each time, until it eventually vanished for American customers or was $10 off for anyone outside of the United States. So, at the $180,000 stretch goal, achievement checklists were added to the digital folder for backers and $1 was sliced off shipping. At $201,000, the box and board art was put into a digital folder for backers and another $1 was chopped off shipping. At $222,000, book challenge art was added to the digital folder for backers, another $1 off of shipping. Then came the first of the new cards within this circle. At $243,000, they added the variant Harry cards that we've looked at into everyone's core box. And the Harry card art was added to a digital folder for backers, and another $1 was taken off shipping. At 264,000, the trend from the previous stretch goal continued. We got those variant Susan cards, and then they added the Susan art to the digital folder and chopped another buck off shipping. At $285,000, no new cards, but the Murphy art was added to the digital folder, another dollar taken off shipping. At $315,000, that's when they added the character of Ra from Sentinels of the Multiverse by Greater Than Games as a crossover pack into the game for all backers. Okay, so that is Hank Walker alias Ra. That came into the game along with another dollar off shipping. At $336,000, the Michael card art was added to the digital folder and another dollar was taken off shipping. At $357,000, the Mouse Hero deck was added to the game, and then they added the digital art for the alphas into the folder for backers and chopped another buck off shipping. Then the final piece of the Circle of Gratitude, the final stretch goal there, was $375,000, which made a Chapter 1 preview for the novel Peace Talks available for backers, and chopped that last dollar off shipping so that the $10 for the US was down to free shipping. They then had an odd one called the Circle of Aspiration. There were backer targets, not targets of funding for the most part, but targets of how many backers they had, from basically 6,000 up to 11,500 in intervals of 500 each time. And each time another 500 was added to the total, it would unlock an ambient audio track. 6 of those were unlocked for backers by the end within a digital folder. The only financial stretch goal for the Circle of Aspiration was actually pretty cool. It's a nice thing for all of us now, and that is that at $450,000, they would start development on the app version of the game. And for Kickstarter backers, they would provide all of the digital versions of the physical content that they had backed by adding it in through digital codes for those backers. So yes, not only was the physical version tied into this Kickstarter, so was the digital version of the game, which is actually really good. As for the pledge levels, you could be a Paranet previewer for $10, which would give you updates and a digital preview of the game, but not the game itself. You could have a Getting Harry in the USA or Bob's Your International Uncle for $39 US, which would give you the game and the stretch goals. You had the USA Triple Play and International Menage a Bob, like the Spirit, for $69, which gave you the game, the stretch goals, and all 3 expansions. Again, the expansions in this case were the first 3: Fan Favorites, Helping Hands, and Warden's Attack. Raw, Mouse, and the variant cards were all stretch goals. Everybody was already getting those, if they backed at least at the core box level. And then if you wanted 6 copies as a group pledge with the stretch goals, but not the expansions for a particular price, then you can have the Alpha Retailers pledge for $119, but you still have to get the expansions separately. Now, you can still go back and actually look at the Kickstarter page for the game, but the final Kickstarter page talks about exclusives that were unlocked, and it includes digital art and the Peace Talks preview, and those are indeed still exclusive. But it also refers to the variants for Harry and Susan, to the deck for Mouse, to the deck for Ra, all of which are being sold on the Evil Hat website. So they're no longer Kickstarter exclusive. They're exclusive through Evil Hat, but not Kickstarter exclusives anymore. For the record, Ra is $4, Mouse and the variants together are $5. So only really the digital art and Peace Talks preview actually remained Kickstarter exclusives. And of course, since the Peace Talks novel will eventually be out anyway, that really isn't an exclusive once the novel is out, unless there are changes and you just want to see an earlier version of it. So it's really just the digital art access and that music, I'd say, digital files, that were actually things that remained exclusive to the backers. That said, though, it's a hell of a game, and I'm glad I was able to get in on it when I could. But boy, it is a tough game. Prepare for a beating when you first try this out, as the books will wind up kicking your butt a few times. And that brings us to the last thing I wanted to quickly show you here for Dresden Files Cooperative card game, until eventually maybe we get some more content, perhaps. But at the rate that he's putting out books, it could be many, many years before that happens. I want to show you the broken token organizer for it. So you have your regular box, and what you're essentially doing is you're taking out anything that was already in the box, getting rid of it, and replacing it with these these wooden organizer pieces that you essentially assemble yourself from these punch cards that they send you. And once you assemble them, you place them into the original box and it organizes them. You don't need a separate box to buy from them or anything like that. It fits within the box that the game came with. Now, you'll see here the way I've got this organized. In this case, I've got all the books over on this side, all the way up through the last of the expansions. Back here, I've got the side jobs. Over here, I've got the characters, the variants, the extra dividers that they give you. And I even took the time to chop up the cards, the backing cards from the expansions so I could remember which ones were in which and what the description was for each, and just stuck them back here. But you'll notice that basically you have these little wooden dividers that fit into all these slots you can see along the edges. You just slide it back in there, it's nicely divided, put your stuff in it, you are good to go. But what, you may ask, of the tokens and the dice? Notice there's these sort of wooden areas here that are sort of blocking something off. What are those? Those are little containers, okay, little trays. Customized, in this case, the Dresden Files cooperative card game. You assemble these two, you can hear the stuff moving around. And this is our place for our tokens, and they've got a symbol for the token type underneath each of the slots, so you know what is going to go where. These do just slide back on. There's sort of a raised up bump here and a way for this to squeeze a little bit so it can go on, but then stay relatively closed. Then you have your other side, which has the Broken Token logo on it, and the website, thebrokentoken.com. Not brokentoken.com, but thebrokentoken.com. And this gives you a space, all right, for the rest of your tokens and for your dice, again, with the symbols built into it here. Now, this is one that I wasn't sure about. Broken Token only does dividers for certain games. Obviously, they can't make ones for all, but you can use some of their generic ones for just whatever game if you think it'll fit the box. I found that it does add some heft to the box, and putting it together was relatively easy. I would liken it to putting together something from Star Wars Legion as a miniature game, and that is that they're designed to fit together easily. For the most part, they do, but every once in a while, you'll run across a piece that's a pain in the ass, and you're trying very hard to put it together without breaking it. In this case, without cracking the wood itself. It's nice. Would I probably wind up getting more of them? I doubt it, unless there's a game that I just really, really need a divider for. Instead, I tend to be sticking with things like little tackle boxes, little card holders, like 50-count card holders and that sort of thing, to divide up most of my game boxes. But I thought this is one, it's a self-contained game. There's not going to be a bunch of big expansions, no other big boxes that are going to need organizers. So if I was ever going to try out Broken Token, this would be the one to do it. So it's nice. It's basically $21 for the organizer itself, and then you can get more of the little dividers for $4. If you ask me now, based on my experience with it, would I have gone back and bought it and spent the $21 on it again? Knowing what I know now, I'm not sure that I would have, but I don't regret it at the same time. It just, for me, was just sort of it helps organize. There are other ways to do it, probably less expensive ways, but at least it's cool looking. And now that it's put together, I don't have to deal with it being a pain in the ass to not break the wood. But I'm told that's pretty much what to expect from the Broken Token. Good quality, but you got to be careful with it when you're putting it together. Sounds about right. And so, for now, once again, that brings our coverage of the Dresden Files cooperative card game to an end until they put out some new expansion materials. I hope this glimpse into the Kickstarter side has added another dimension to your interest or understanding of the Dresden Files cooperative card game, assuming you set out to watch this on purpose and it wasn't just auto-playing. Thanks for watching.